Now we bring you the extraordinary story of Holocaust survivor Paul Alexander, whose parents put him on a train from Germany when he was 18 months old, and he arrived in London weeks before the outbreak of the war. One of the thousands of children saved after Britain agreed to accept the Kindertransport trains. Both his parents subsequently managed to reach the UK themselves, and his family was reunited. He stayed in London until he was 24, and later he and his wife moved to Israel and started a family. Here's more from footage recorded by March of the Living.
Some hope came along. We heard about children's transport possibilities to England, and we could send away our 1.5-year-old baby. It would be difficult to imagine how we felt when we had to part with our only sunshine. In these otherwise morbid surroundings, for the sake of the child, we decided on sending him. We knew he would not suffer anymore. Whatever would happen to us, we would be free to work on our escape in our aim to join our child. I did not even cry when I saw him. I didn't even cry when I saw him looking out at the train window. Pressing his face to the window pane. And only when I walked home with my husband, arm in arm, pushing the pram, the empty pram, I realized what it meant to both of us. July 14th, 1939. They put me in a pram. They took me to the station and put me into the arms of a stranger at the age of 1 year. One year and 7 months. Who knows what was going on in their minds, knowing what was happening with the atmosphere of the Germans, the Nazis, all the horrible things that were happening around them. But they decided to do that in my interest. They put me in the hands of a stranger. They turned around, walked home. My mother said they pushed. They pushed an empty carrier home. Who knows what went through their minds.
And now it's a privilege to welcome to studio Holocaust survivor Paul Alexander and Holocaust survivor Avi Pazner, still with us in studio, former Israeli ambassador to France and Italy. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here in studio. And Paul, I'm going to start with you. Listening to you reading out that letter, one cannot imagine what your parents had to go through. Obviously, you were a baby at the time. But take us back to your first memories when you were first told about what happened, your memories of your understanding about how you ended up in London.
Well, as you know, I was only 1.5. I was reunited with my parents at the age of about 5. I do remember being with them at that age. I obviously didn't understand that. I didn't understand what had gone on in the past, transpired in the 5 years before that. But when my parents, at the age of 5, shortly after I was reunited with them, when we were all reunited and evacuated to the north of England, and I started living a normal life with my parents, I knew quite quickly that I was a child of refugees from Germany. And I think the knowledge of being a refugee child in England, having grown up as a refugee, has really been with me all my life. And I've always felt it, and talking about it is healing. And that's why I'm always happy to talk to people, to talk to schools, to talk to B'nai Knesset, to talk to people about it. My daughter, who is a psychologist, says that because I was alone without my parents for the first 3 years or 5 years of my life, it's caused some trauma in me. And that's why I find it very emotional and important to talk about it, and why I'm feeling privileged to be here and talking to you this evening about that.
And it's so important, of course, to have stories told so that future generations understand what happened. Do you get that sense when you are speaking to people, to schools, to audiences, the level of understanding, the need for that right now?
I certainly do. I feel it's incumbent on me and incumbent on every citizen of the State of Israel to talk about the lessons of the Holocaust, so that everyone should do everything in his power to combat global terrorism and racism and hatred in all its forms. And I think it's something that I attach extreme importance to doing that, and that's why I do it. And I think it's very important that we teach our children and our children's children the lessons of the Holocaust. Unfortunately, as our Prime Minister said yesterday, after the judgment of the International Court was given, the world seems to have forgotten about the Holocaust. But nevertheless, I still think it's important we go ahead and we still continue to teach our children and our grandchildren and all the generations beneath us about the Holocaust. It's something I attach extreme importance to.
And to that exact point, when you understand the accusations made at The Hague, and you understand that the history of the Jewish people understands all too well what genocide really is, how does that feel, hearing those allegations, understanding the way that argument was put to The Hague on Friday?
Well, it's difficult for me to summarize it, but it's, as the government has said, the accusation of Israel that has committed genocide is as Prime Minister used the word, ridiculous.
Ludicrous.
Ludicrous. We know, and we all know, that if anybody committed genocide, it's the Hamas against us, and not us against the Arab people. I'm living with it, and we all have to live with the situation. And fortunately, as it was said today when there was an analysis of the judgment, we have to live with it, and we can live with it. But as I say, I'll do my best in the future to continue to teach teach people the meaning of the Holocaust.
To that exact point, tell us what got you to Israel. How did you and your family end up moving here?
Well, when my parents were evacuated to the north of England, I started living a normal life with my parents. I went to school, went to university, did a law degree, became a lawyer, and I grew up in Jewish communities in England. And then when I left home at the age of 24, I went to live in London, worked in London, the city of London, as an attorney. And then at the age of 30, I met an Israeli lady, a beautiful Israeli girl called Nili, who worked at the Israeli embassy in London. And we dated and very quickly decided we were going to marry. We made a decision very quickly that we're going to establish our home in the State of Israel. I had been to Israel twice already in my life. When I was 11, my mother hadn't seen her parents for 15 years after they left Germany in 1936. So I went with my mother to Israel in 1949, a year after the establishment of the estate, and then again on a summer course, a summer program of the Jewish Agency when I was 21 at the university. I came to Israel again, so already there was the seeds of and the desire one day to settle in the state of Israel. So when I met an Israeli girl and we got married, it was quite a simple decision for me to leave England and come to Israel. We came when I was 34 years of age. My wife was about 27 years of age. And she has a very large and united family, and we immediately established a family. We had children, 3 children, and all of them, my children and my in-laws and my 11 grandchildren, all live in Israel today. My son is my daughters are both musicians. My sons-in-law, wonderful people, and my grandchildren are all very, very musical.
Right.
And all in Israel, and we're a very happy and united family in Israel today.
And certainly the generations all living here, it is a beautiful, beautiful story. And in telling that story and sharing your story, you also met Prince William in recent years. Tell us about that.
Yes, well, in the year 2018, it was exactly 80 years after Kristallnacht, and somehow the World Jewish Relief Organization, who organized the Kindertransport, they decided, how can we commemorate the amazing operation which they did 80 years previously. So they decided to have a bike ride from Berlin to London, which
right.
I took part in. I was the only kind on the bicycle in the group, but I did that, and it was very emotional. I did it together with my son and my grandson. And when we came back from the bike ride Berlin to London in June 2018, that was exactly the time when Prince William made his state visit to the state of Israel, and he was. The one place he was permitted to visit was Yad Vashem. I was invited to meet him by the British Embassy in Tel Aviv, together with another Kindertransport survivor, Henry Foner, who was 6 years older than me, and we were invited to meet Prince William to have a private, intimate discussion with him in Yad Vashem in the presence of Avner Shalev, the chairman, and we did in fact have a meeting with him in the Yad Vashem, 15-minute talk, which was extremely exciting. I couldn't believe that I was here talking to the future King of England.
Right.
But we did have a very interesting talk, and it was very exciting. If I may tell you a little bit, just one or two things about what was said.
Sure.
First of all, he had done his homework, and he knew that I didn't remember much. But his first question was, "What do you remember about the journey from the place where you were put on the trains?" He knew that I couldn't remember anything, so he turned to Henry, and Henry told him that he was put on the train by his father and his grandfather, his mother having died. And he remembers the German soldiers coming onto the train and the very frightening atmosphere that there was on the train. Then he asked us when and how were we reunited with our parents, and I was able to tell him that I was one of the lucky children who was reunited with my parents, because as is well documented, more than 50% of the kinder that were sent to England did not see their parents again. I was one of the lucky ones.
You were.
The kind that I was with, Henry Foner, wasn't so lucky. He never saw his parents again. He was taken in and adopted by a family, and his father sent him postcards, which are now in the archives of Yad Vashem. But after 2 years, the postcards stopped coming, and he learnt subsequently that his father and his grandmother were murdered at Auschwitz. So I'm a lucky guy. I told Prince William that the reason I did the bicycle ride was because it was a victory for me. It was my answer to Hitler. And that was the headline of a newspaper in Germany the day the bike ride took place.
Right.
Das ist mein Antwort auf Hitler. That is my answer to Hitler. My success and my victory in coming to Israel, in this beautiful country, and bringing up my family and living a wonderful life in this country.
And what a beautiful message of survival that is. And Avi, I want to bring you in here because we're hearing about an 18-month-old baby. And obviously, at the time, you wouldn't have any memories. But at the time of the start of the war, you were 7 or 8 years old. You actually remember. Tell us more about your memories during that time.
Benita, I have to tell you, at the end of the war.
Right, so tell us your memories.
Yeah, the most vivid memory I have was of V-Day, Victory Day, in 8th of May, 1945. I was then 8 years old, and we were living as refugees in Geneva, Switzerland. And I it's amazing. I didn't know Paul Alexander. I have the same story with the date of our arrival in Switzerland, which was July, August 39, and the train from Danzig, where I was born, entering, and we were smuggled into Switzerland. And that's how we survived the war in Switzerland. But my father was involved during all these years in trying to save Jews from all over Europe. So I grew up, even as a child, First of all, it was forbidden to talk about what I hear and what I see, because people were smuggled into Switzerland from France, from the Netherlands, from Hungary, and I was, of course, not part of that operation, but I saw everything. And it's amazing how a small child of 6, 7, or 8 years remember traumatic things. This is amazing, because usually you don't have a good memory of what happens when you are that young. I vividly remember all these people passing through Geneva, through our home. And I remember my father with the sleepless night trying to save as many Jews as possible. And the heartbreaking, we heard news of we knew everything. When they say the world didn't know, that's not true. We knew, everybody knew. They didn't want to speak about it. So I have a very vivid recollection of this time, let's say, of the latter part of the war. Let's say from 43, 44, 45. And what I remember, I think, very vividly, as I told you at the beginning, was Victory Day. I went with my aunt, Auntie Berta, the sister of my mother, who is now 102 years old, and watching this program from her residence in Rishon LeZion.
It is an honor that she is watching this program right now. It is a true honor.
So we went waving British flags in Geneva, which was forbidden, because we were neutral, and American flags. And this is how we celebrated V-Day in May 45, and the big relief that at least we managed to escape, although I must say that most of our family did not. But that was a day of immense joy, and thanks heaven that we went through these awful years, like you, in relative safety in the UK, and we in Switzerland. Mm-hmm. And so at the same age, you arrived at the UK, the same age as I arrived in Switzerland.
It is very, very special to be in the presence of both of you at the same time right now. I would like your take, though, on a story that is emerging in recent days. It was one of the freed hostages. Her name is Adina Moshe, 72 years old. She was in captivity in a tunnel. She gave an account of how, when they were in captivity, a group of elderly hostages were trying to keep their minds active. And one of the professors there, his name is Alex Danzig, began lecturing about the Holocaust to pass the time in the Hamas dungeon. This story will send goosebumps through everyone when you hear that she said, we asked him to stop lecturing because the parallels to the Holocaust were unbearable. How do you respond to that?
Well, there's no question that the terrible massacre on Black Shabbat was a repeat of the Holocaust. There's no question. Everybody agrees that it's the most dreadful event that's happened since the Holocaust. And to hear that someone talked about it in the Hamas tunnels is just mind blowing. It's unbelievable that this thing happened to us, and it's just I can't talk about it. It's just too difficult to talk about it.
It is beyond heartbreaking. Avi,
Yes, beyond heartbreaking. And you know, while you were asking the question, I was thinking. I was here 2 days ago when the judgment in Hague was rendered, and I was thinking how absurd it is that we, the victim of the worst Holocaust in history, we are being accused by a phony international court, a mockery of justice, a parody of justice, of genocide. Which we are doing whatever we can in order not to hit innocent people. You know, I was thinking also, how does this judge feel? She said, she was quoting, you know, with that important look, yes, and the United Nations said that, and UNRWA, the president of UNRWA said the Israelis have behaving badly. President of UNRWA, collaborator of the Hamas, Nazi Hamas, whose own people participated in the massacre on October the 7th.
And are confessing
and we
as
are
much.
sitting there as accused. That is what I was thinking. Also thinking about what is going with our hostages, how they live like they lived during World War II in the forest and in the hidden places. We are the victims. We should not be judged. We should be the accusers. And this is what every one of us should feel. We should feel pride that we survived and that we are here in order to live here as free people in our country without letting anybody interfere with what we are, with the life of the Jewish people.
I agree. Absolutely agree with what's been said. It's clear that the lessons of the Holocaust have not been learned, but we mustn't give up. We have to be united and do everything in our power to ensure that there will be no further acts of Holocaust against the Jewish people.
Ambassador Gilad Erdan said, "In the name of all those murdered by the Nazis and Hamas, never again is now. In the name of all those murdered by the Nazis and Hamas, never again is now." Avi Pazner, Paul Alexander, a privilege to have you on this day here in studio. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
for
much.
sharing your stories and being here on I-24 News.
It's a privilege to be talking with you.